Imagine if I told you that 98% of an entire continent remains invisible to human eyes, not because it's in another galaxy, but because it sits right here on Earth, buried beneath ice so thick that entire mountain ranges disappear like ghosts. This is Antarctica, 14.2 million square kilometers of the most restricted real estate on our planet. While you scroll through satellite images of every street corner in your hometown, there are places in Antarctica where no human foot has ever touched ground, places where ancient secrets sleep beneath miles of frozen water, places where the very laws that govern our world seem to bend and whisper of impossible things. Tonight, we journey into the white silence, into a continent that doesn't just hide its secrets, it buries them under ice older than human civilization. If you're here to fall asleep, perfect, you're in the right place. Let your mind wander with these stories. Let the words wash over you like snow drifting across an endless plain. Maybe you're in New York where the city never sleeps, or perhaps in London where rain taps against your window. Tell me your city and what time it is there in the comments. I love reading them. Tonight, as the world spins and cities hum with life, we turn our attention to the most silent place on Earth. A continent so quiet that your heartbeat becomes thunder, so empty that your thoughts echo across valleys no map can show. Close your eyes if you wish. Let the story carry you. Part 1. The White Silence. Picture yourself standing at the edge of everything. The year is 2025, and you've just stepped off a cargo plane onto the Ross Ice Shelf. The silence hits you like a physical force, not the absence of sound, but the presence of quiet so complete it feels alive. Antarctica spans nearly 14.2 million square kilometers, making it larger than the United States and Mexico combined. Yet 98% of this continent lies buried beneath ice, creating one of Earth's greatest mysteries, an entire landmass that exists largely in the dark, hidden from human eyes for millions of years. The numbers alone should make you pause. Only 0.4% of Antarctica is ice-free, tiny islands of rock scattered like breadcrumbs across an ocean of white. These are the coastal oases, the cliff faces, the nunataks that pierce through the ice like ancient monuments marking territories we can never fully claim. The South Pole Station sits on the polar plateau at 2,835 meters above sea level, where the air is so thin and dry that every breath feels borrowed. Here, the night lasts for months, creating a darkness so profound that the aurora australis dances overhead, like spirits celebrating the end of the world. The sky becomes an ideal canvas for astronomy, as if the continent itself was designed to be Earth's window into space. But it's not just the cold that makes Antarctica alien. At Vostok Station, thermometers once recorded negative 128.6 degrees Fahrenheit, negative 89.2 Celsius, on July 21st, 1983. This wasn't just cold weather. This was the planet testing the very limits of what water can become. Imagine the quiet at such temperatures. The air itself becomes different, so dry that it strips moisture from your lungs, so thin that every sound seems muffled and distant. Only a handful of research stations operate year-round in this environment. During summer, places like McMurdo Station swell to nearly 1,000 people, a bustling metropolis by Antarctic standards. But when winter arrives, the population drops to just a few hundred souls scattered across an entire continent. The logistics of survival here depend entirely on a narrow window from October to February, when sea ice retreats enough for aircraft and ships to reach the coastal stations. Miss that window, and you're cut off from the world for 8 months. It's during these long winters that Antarctica reveals its true nature, not as a destination, but as a test of human limits. The continent's geography remains largely theoretical. Beneath kilometers of ice lie domes, ridges, and valleys that have never seen sunlight. Satellite radar and ground-penetrating surveys create maps of this hidden world, showing us mountains that dwarf the Alps, canyons deeper than the Grand Canyon, all existing in permanent darkness beneath the ice. The emptiness is deceptive. What appears to be a blank white canvas actually conceals an entire world. Mountains that pierce 3,000 meters into the sky, lakes larger than entire countries, rivers that have flowed in darkness for millions of years. These features exist in a realm where no human has ever ventured, where no photograph has ever been taken, where the very concept of discovery takes on mythical proportions. Most visitors to Antarctica, whether scientists or the few tourists who can afford the journey, require extensive permits and environmental assessments. There is no casual travel here, no unplanned access. Every footstep is monitored, every sample catalogued, every movement tracked by satellites and radio communication. This level of control isn't accidental. Antarctica operates under one of the most restrictive international agreements on Earth, governing not just who can visit, but what they can do, where they can go, and what they can take. The continent has become humanity's most regulated laboratory, where even the act of collecting a single rock requires international approval. Yet for all this oversight, Antarctica remains fundamentally unknowable. The ice moves constantly, grinding and shifting, revealing new features while burying others. What we mapped last year might be gone next year, covered by snow or swallowed by crevasses that open like wounds in the white surface. This is one of the last places on Earth where silence is almost total, not the quiet of a library or the hush of a cathedral, but the profound silence of a world that exists beyond human comprehension. Here, in the white quiet, questions multiply faster than answers. What lies beneath the ice? What secrets has this continent kept for millions of years? And why, despite all our technology and determination, does Antarctica continue to guard its mysteries like a sphinx made of frozen water? The continent challenges our most basic assumptions about exploration and discovery. In an age where we've mapped every street and photographed every building, Antarctica reminds us that mystery still exists, that there are still places where the unknown outnumbers the known, where speculation and wonder still have room to grow. As you listen to these words, somewhere in Antarctica, the ice is moving. Slowly, imperceptibly, but constantly, ancient air bubbles trapped in glacial ice are carrying messages from atmospheres that existed before humans walked the Earth. Lakes sealed beneath kilometers of ice are harboring forms of life that might redefine biology itself. This is the setting for our story. Not just a continent, but a question mark the size of Australia, sitting at the bottom of our world, keeping its secrets in ice older than memory. Part 2. The Treaty of Secrets, December 1st, 1959. 12 nations gather in Washington, D.C. to sign what would become one of the most unusual documents in human history. Not a declaration of war or a trade agreement, but something unprecedented. A treaty that sets aside an entire continent for peace and science. The Antarctic Treaty, entering force on June 23, 1961, did something remarkable. It suspended all territorial claims to Antarctica indefinitely, creating a continent that belongs to no one and everyone simultaneously. But for those who seek conspiracy in every corner, this international cooperation raises a troubling question. What could be so important that it would make competing nations set aside their differences and speak with one voice? Picture the scene at that signing ceremony. Representatives from the United States, Soviet Union, United Kingdom, Argentina, Australia, Belgium, Chile, France, Japan, New Zealand, Norway, and South Africa, many of these countries locked in Cold War tensions elsewhere, suddenly agreeing to share the most mysterious continent on Earth. The timing seems convenient, doesn't it? Just as satellite technology and long-range aircraft were making Antarctica more accessible, suddenly it becomes off-limits to military activity. The treaty's language is deceptively simple. Antarctica shall be used for peaceful purposes only. Military personnel and equipment are prohibited except to support science or other peaceful purposes. Nuclear testing and waste disposal are banned. All activities must be transparent, with nations required to exchange information about personnel, logistics, and research annually. But transparency in Antarctica comes with strict conditions. In 1991, the Madrid Protocol added environmental protection rules so comprehensive that they effectively banned mineral resource activities, mining indefinitely. Some read this as environmental wisdom. Others see it as a convenient way to keep people away from whatever might be buried beneath the ice. The decision-making process itself seems designed to prevent change. The Antarctic Treaty System operates by consensus among consultative parties. This means any single nation can veto new proposals, creating a system where maintaining the status quo becomes easier than pursuing new discoveries. Critics argue this consensus requirement acts as a brake on exploration, keeping certain areas perpetually off-limits. Every year, nations must file detailed reports about their Antarctic activities. Personnel lists, research objectives, logistics operations, environmental impact assessments, all submitted for review by other treaty nations. This level of documentation is unprecedented for any territory on Earth. Supporters call it transparency. Skeptics wonder what necessitates such careful monitoring. environmental impact assessment has become mandatory for any activity with more than minor or transitory impacts. These assessments can take years to complete and require international review. The result is that spontaneous exploration becomes virtually impossible. Every scientific expedition must be planned, approved, and monitored through multiple layers of bureaucracy. The Convention for the Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources, established in 1980, extends this regulatory approach to the southern oceans surrounding Antarctica. Krill fishing, the harvesting of any marine life, even research on ocean ecosystems, all must be approved and monitored through international committees. Antarctic specially protected areas add another layer of restriction. These zones require special permits even for scientists to enter. There are dozens of such areas continent-wide, protecting everything from penguin rookeries to geological formations to historic huts left by early explorers. The management plans for these areas specify exactly what activities are allowed, often very little beyond observation. Some of these protected areas have restrictions so specific they seem almost paranoid. Certain locations prohibit the introduction of any non-native materials, require sterilization of all equipment, and mandate that visitors remain a specific distance from particular geological features. The level of control exceeds what we see at the most sensitive archaeological sites. National programs add their own layers of regulation. The United States Antarctic Conservation Act, for example, requires permits for activities as simple as collecting a rock sample or taking a photograph in certain areas. Similar laws exist in every treaty nation, creating a web of regulations that effectively controls every aspect of human presence on the continent. Tourism operates under equally strict guidelines. The International Association of Antarctica Tour Operators maintains detailed protocols for visitor behavior. Maintain distance from wildlife, don't touch artifacts, follow designated pathways, carry out all waste. Tour operators must file environmental impact assessments and annual permit applications with their national authorities before bringing any visitors to the continent. The practical reality is that most of Antarctica remains effectively invisible to most people, not just because of formal restrictions, but because of the coordination required between multiple international agencies. Want to visit a particular valley? You'll need permits from your home country, approval from the treaty system, environmental assessments, and coordination with existing research operations. Recent transparency measures include publishing permit applications in public forums like the US Federal Register. Countries routinely publish guidance for specialist activities like entering protected areas or handling wildlife. Yet this transparency comes with its own questions. Why does visiting certain geological formations require more documentation than handling radioactive materials? The treaty doesn't hide Antarctica. It regulates it with a level of international cooperation that exists nowhere else on Earth. This cooperation has prevented the militarization of Antarctica and protected its environment from exploitation. But it has also created a system where challenging the established narrative becomes institutionally difficult. For 64 years, this system has worked remarkably well. No wars have been fought over Antarctic territory. Environmental damage has been minimized. Scientific research has flourished under international cooperation. Yet the very success of this system raises questions about what it was designed to protect. Perhaps the Antarctic Treaty represents humanity at its best, nations setting aside self-interest for science and environmental protection. Or perhaps it represents something else, an agreement so comprehensive, so restrictive, and so universally accepted that it makes certain questions impossible to ask. The treaty endures. But as climate change reshapes the continent and new technologies make exploration easier, the consensus that created this system faces new pressures. What happens when the ice melts enough to reveal what has been hidden? What happens when the questions become too urgent to defer to international committees? Part 3: Forbidden Zones. Imagine receiving an invitation to visit the most exclusive locations on Earth, places so restricted that even scientists need special permission to set foot there. Welcome to Antarctica's Forbidden Zones, where the phrase "no trespassing" takes on global significance. Antarctic specially protected areas scatter across the continent like invisible fortresses. These aren't military installations or government secrets. They're patches of ice, rock, and snow deemed so scientifically valuable or environmentally fragile that international law guards them more carefully than national treasures. Each site has its own management plan, its own rules, its own reasons for keeping humans away. ASPA number 116 protects New College Valley in the Dry Valleys region. The management plan reads like a security manual. No camping, no sampling of geological materials, no introduction of non-native organisms. Visitors must follow predetermined routes, maintain minimum distances from specific rock formations, and document every action they take. The penalty for deviation isn't just legal, it's international diplomatic consequences. But why such protection for what appears to be empty valleys? The dry valleys represent some of the most Mars-like conditions on Earth. Here, valleys that haven't seen flowing water for millions of years preserve geological and chemical signatures that could revolutionize our understanding of life's limits. Some researchers believe these valleys harbor microorganisms so adapted to extreme conditions that they represent entirely new forms of life. The protection protocols go beyond simple environmental conservation. In some areas, visitors must sterilize all equipment using procedures more rigorous than hospital operating rooms. Clothing must be specially cleaned, boots must be disinfected, even cameras and notebooks require specific preparation. The level of biological security suggests these sites preserve something irreplaceable and potentially vulnerable to contamination from the outside world. ASPA 155 in the Pensacola Mountains protects what researchers call reference sites, locations that serve as baselines for understanding natural processes. But reference for what? The management plan specifies that these areas must remain unmodified by human presence, as if they're serving as control groups in some continent-wide experiment. Some protected areas guard historical sites, the huts of early explorers like Scott and Shackleton. These locations require permits not just for entry, but for specific activities within them. You can look but not touch, photograph but not collect, observe but not alter. The preservation standards exceed those of most World Heritage sites, maintaining these structures in a state of suspended animation. Antarctic specially managed areas take coordination even further. These zones don't prohibit human activity, they manage it. Multiple research groups, tourism operators, and logistics teams must coordinate their activities through international committees. The result is a level of human choreography unprecedented anywhere else on Earth. The dry valleys represent the largest ASMA, covering thousands of square kilometers with management plans that read like air traffic control procedures. Who can go where, when they can go, what they can do. All coordinated through databases that track every human movement across the landscape. Research groups must file detailed itineraries months in advance and report any deviations from approved activities. National programs layer additional restrictions on top of international ones. The United States National Science Foundation requires permits for activities as basic as collecting snow samples or measuring wind speed in certain areas. These permits undergo environmental review processes that can take months to complete, effectively making spontaneous research impossible. The permit applications themselves reveal the extent of control. Detailed maps showing exact GPS coordinates of planned activities. Lists of equipment and materials, down to the type of notebooks researchers will carry. Biological protocols for preventing contamination. Emergency procedures for medical evacuation or equipment failure. The paperwork for a simple geological survey can exceed what's required for nuclear reactor operations. Tourism faces even stricter controls. The International Association of Antarctica Tour Operators maintains landing site guidelines that specify exactly where visitors can walk, what they can photograph, and how long they can stay. Tour guides carry permits that authorize specific activities in designated zones, with penalties for deviation that include permanent bans from Antarctic operations. Some restricted areas have protection levels that seem almost paranoid. Sites where visitors must maintain specific distances from geological formations, not for safety, but to prevent contamination of scientific sites. Areas where photography is permitted, but publishing images requires additional approval. Zones where collecting any material, even loose rocks or snow samples, triggers diplomatic incidents. The enforcement mechanisms work through interconnected monitoring systems. Research stations track visitors through radio communication and GPS monitoring. Aircraft movements are logged and coordinated through international databases. Even waste disposal requires documentation and tracking to ensure nothing remains behind to alter the natural environment. But perhaps the most intriguing restrictions are those with minimal explanation. Protected areas designated simply as sites of special scientific interest, without detailed justification for the protection level. Management plans, that reference ongoing research projects without describing what that research involves. Restricted zones where the scientific rationale is classified as preliminary findings pending further investigation. Recent expansions of protected areas have occurred without significant public debate. New zones appear in international agreements with standardized language about environmental protection and scientific value, but limited information about what specifically necessitates protection. The process works efficiently, perhaps too efficiently for those who value transparency over conservation. The practical reality is that these restrictions make most of Antarctica effectively inaccessible to unplanned exploration. Want to examine an unusual rock formation? Collect ice samples from a particular glacier. Camp in a valley that appears on no tourist itinerary. Each activity requires navigating a bureaucracy that spans multiple nations and international organizations. Yet the restrictions aren't necessarily hiding anything nefarious. Many protect genuinely fragile ecosystems, preserve important research sites, or maintain the pristine conditions that make Antarctic science valuable. The mossbeds of Sierra Point, the meteorite collection areas of the Transantarctic Mountains, the pristine ice of the polar plateau. These environments deserve protection from human impact. The question isn't whether Antarctica needs protection, but whether the current system of restrictions serves science and conservation, or something else entirely. In a continent where mystery already outnumbers knowledge, administrative barriers make certain questions harder to ask, and some answers impossible to pursue. Part 4. The Lost Explorer's Notes, February 17, 1912. Captain Robert Falcon Scott writes his final diary entry in a tent surrounded by howling Antarctic winds. His words, preserved in ice and now digitized for the world to read, carry no secrets of ancient civilizations or hidden territories, just the honest desperation of a man facing death in the most unforgiving place on Earth. We shall stick it out to the end, but we are getting weaker, of course, and the end cannot be far. It seems a pity, but I do not think I can write more. These words, found months later when rescue teams discovered Scott's tent, reveal something more profound than any conspiracy theory could invent: the absolute vulnerability of humans against Antarctic silence. The primary diaries and expedition logs from Scott, Ernest Shackleton, and Roald Amundsen survive in archives across the world. The Scott Polar Research Institute in Cambridge houses the largest collection, with many documents now digitized and accessible online. These aren't hidden documents or suppressed evidence. They're the intimate, sometimes tedious records of men pushing against the limits of human endurance. Scott's polar diary, maintained during his final journey to the South Pole, reads like a masterclass in determined documentation. Daily weather observations, food consumption calculations, ice conditions, team member health assessments, all recorded with the methodical precision of someone who knew these details might be his only legacy. The famous passages about reaching the pole, only to find Amundsen's flag get the attention, but the real story lives in the mundane entries about frostbitten fingers and diminishing rations. Shackleton's sledging diaries from the Endurance expedition reveal a different kind of survival story. When their ship became trapped in pack ice for nearly 2 years, Shackleton's daily log transformed from exploration record to crisis management manual. His entries track not just their physical location, but the psychological state of 27 men trapped in ice that could crush their vessel at any moment. Position: latitude 84 degrees 5 minutes south, longitude 167 degrees east. Ice pressure increasing. Ship holding but under severe strain. Men's morale remains high despite circumstances. Week after week, Shackleton documented their slow drift northward, carried by ice floes across the Weddell Sea, maintaining hope through words committed to paper when hope had almost no basis in reality. Amundsen's South Pole narrative offers the perspective of the expedition that succeeded. His methodical Norwegian approach shows through every entry: careful equipment selection, detailed logistics planning, systematic risk management. But his diary also reveals the psychological pressure of racing Scott across unknown terrain, knowing that failure might mean not just death, but historical insignificance. The working day logs, weather observations, ship navigation records, supply inventories provide even more intimate glimpses of Antarctic reality. These documents fragment over time, not through secrecy, but through harsh conditions. Paper deteriorates in extreme cold, ink freezes in temperatures that make writing physically painful, and sometimes entire logbooks disappear when sleds fall through ice, or tents get buried in blizzards. Many expedition records survive in multiple institutions precisely because the explorers understood they might not return. Scott sent regular dispatches back with returning support parties. Shackleton maintained duplicate records in different locations on the ship. Amundsen carried backup navigation logs in case primary equipment failed. These weren't just practical precautions. They were attempts to ensure their stories would survive, even if they didn't. Recent discoveries keep adding chapters to these historical narratives. The Endurance, Shackleton's ship lost in 1915, was located in 2022 by the Endurance 2022 expedition. The ship, preserved in Antarctic water temperatures, contained artifacts and documents that had been frozen in time for over a century. Shackleton's final ship, Quest, was found in 2024, adding another piece to the exploration puzzle. But the real treasure in these archival collections isn't what they hide. It's what they reveal about human nature under extreme stress. Scott's increasingly desperate calculations about food supplies and travel distances show a man maintaining scientific discipline even as death approached. Shackleton's leadership strategies, documented in real time, provide lessons in crisis management that business schools still study today. The gaps in these historical records exist for physical reasons, not conspiratorial ones. Ink that froze solid before it could be applied to paper, logbooks that became fuel for survival fires when coal ran out, documents destroyed by moisture when snow accumulated inside tents. The Antarctic environment itself became the censor, destroying records through cold, wind, and time, rather than human intention. Educational resources based on these expedition records emphasize how much we actually do know about early Antarctic exploration. The Royal Geographical Society maintains detailed expedition timelines and biographical materials. Museum collections worldwide preserve equipment, photographs, and personal items from polar expeditions. Rather than hidden secrets, these materials provide almost overwhelming documentation of human courage and failure. Modern archival digitization has made many of these documents globally accessible. Scott's diary can be read in its entirety online. Shackleton's correspondence with his wife during expedition planning provides intimate details about the psychological preparation for polar exploration. Even technical documents, navigation charts, equipment specifications, supply lists are available for researchers and curious readers. The most profound discovery in these historical records isn't evidence of conspiracy or cover-up, but testimony to human resilience against absolute indifference. These explorers wrote not as heroes on secret missions, but as ordinary people facing extraordinary circumstances. Their voices are intimate and mortal, recording polar bravery against natural indifference rather than government secrecy. Perhaps the greatest mystery these documents reveal is why humans continue to seek such places despite the clear evidence of their danger. Scott's final words, Shackleton's daily commitment to his crew's survival, Amundsen's methodical approach to impossible logistics. These records show exploration not as conspiracy, but as a fundamental human response to the unknown. These aren't whispered secrets or hidden documents. They're honest voices from the edge of human capability, preserved not by government agencies, but by the explorers themselves who understood that their stories mattered more than their lives. In an age of manufactured mystery, their authentic struggle against the white silence provides something more valuable than conspiracy theories. Evidence of human dignity in the face of absolute challenge. Part 5. War and Mystery. Operation High Jump, August 26, 1946. Task Force 68 of the United States Navy departs Norfolk, Virginia, bound for Antarctica carrying 4,700 men, 13 ships, and 23 aircraft, one of the largest polar expeditions in history. Operation High Jump, officially designated as the United States Navy Antarctic Developments Program, would spend the next 6 months conducting operations that continue to fuel speculation nearly 80 years later. Admiral Richard E. Byrd, already a polar exploration legend, commanded this massive undertaking with objectives that seemed straightforward. Test equipment and procedures for cold weather operations, train military personnel for polar conditions, establish the Little America 4 base, and conduct aerial photography mapping across vast sectors of the continent. The scale of the operation, however, suggested ambitions beyond simple training exercises. Picture the scene as this naval armada approached Antarctica. The flagship Mount Olympus, carrying command staff and communication equipment. The icebreaker Northwind, designed to break through pack ice and establish shipping lanes. Submarine USS Senate conducting underwater operations in Antarctic waters, landing ship tanks carrying tracked vehicles and construction equipment, support vessels loaded with enough supplies for extended operations in the most hostile environment on Earth. The aerial component included ski-equipped R-4D aircraft capable of landing on ice, helicopters for reconnaissance and transport, and flying boats for long-range reconnaissance missions. The photographic equipment alone represented millions of dollars of specialized gear designed to map terrain from perspectives never before achieved. Flight crews trained specifically for polar navigation, where traditional compass bearings become meaningless, and whiteout conditions can disorient even experienced pilots. Operation Highjump's official mission parameters included mapping approximately 540,000 square miles of Antarctic territory, testing cold weather equipment and procedures, and determining the feasibility of establishing permanent bases in polar regions. The timing, occurring just 1 year after World War II ended, placed these activities in the context of emerging Cold War tensions and America's desire to project power globally. The scale and military organization of Highjump exceeded anything required for simple scientific research. Combat experienced personnel led operations using wartime logistics and command structures. The expedition brought military equipment designed for conflict, not just exploration, tracked vehicles capable of traversing ice, communication systems that could coordinate complex operations, and aircraft equipped for reconnaissance missions that extended far beyond previously explored territories. Declassified mission reports document extensive aerial photography operations that covered vast areas of previously unmapped Antarctic terrain. Flight crews reported unusual geographical features, unexpected ice formations, and terrain that challenged existing understanding of Antarctic geography. Some reports described valleys that appeared ice-free despite sub-zero temperatures, geographical features that didn't match any known Antarctic formations, and magnetic anomalies that interfered with navigation equipment. The expedition's abbreviated timeline raises questions that official explanations struggle to address completely. Originally planned to continue operations until early 1947, Highjump curtailed activities several months early, following a series of aircraft accidents and increasingly harsh weather conditions. Official reports attribute the early termination to operational difficulties and loss of equipment, but some observers note the hasty withdrawal followed reports of unusual encounters and unexplained phenomena. Admiral Byrd's post-expedition interviews added fuel to speculation about Highjump's true objectives. His comments about the potential for Antarctic resources, the continent's strategic importance, and the need for continued military presence in polar regions suggested considerations beyond simple training exercises. Byrd's references to the necessity of defending America against hostile regions took on different meanings when applied to a continent supposedly empty of human activity. The photographic and mapping results from Highjump remained classified for years after the expedition's return. When eventually released, the materials showed detailed documentation of previously unknown geographical features, unusual ice formations, and terrain that suggested geological activity inconsistent with a frozen dead continent. Some photographs appeared to show openings in ice formations, unusual coloration in certain areas, and structures that defied easy explanation. Film reels and documentation from Highjump emphasize the expedition's training and mapping objectives, but careful analysis reveals gaps in the official narrative. Certain flight paths and operational areas receive minimal documentation despite being major components of the mission. Some crew members reported experiences that don't appear in official logs, and certain photographic materials remain restricted despite the passage of decades. Geopolitical context adds another layer of complexity to Operation Highjump's story. The expedition occurred during the early stages of Cold War tensions, when both the United States and Soviet Union were developing capabilities for global power projection. Antarctic bases could serve as staging areas for operations in the Southern Hemisphere, control points for shipping routes, and strategic positions for communications and intelligence gathering. The technological capabilities demonstrated during Highjump exceeded what most nations could deploy in 1946. The expedition's logistical achievements, maintaining complex operations in extreme conditions, coordinating air and sea operations across vast distances, establishing temporary bases capable of supporting hundreds of personnel, represented military capabilities that few countries possessed. Post-Highjump developments in Antarctic policy suggest the expedition's results influenced subsequent American Antarctic strategy. The United States became a leading advocate for the Antarctic Treaty System, pushing for international agreements that would regulate Antarctic activities and prevent military operations. This transition from military expedition to diplomatic leadership suggests that High Jump revealed something that changed American thinking about Antarctic operations. The expedition's scientific and logistical lessons directly contributed to later Antarctic programs, including Operation Deep Freeze in the 1950s, which established permanent American research stations across the continent. Equipment designs, operational procedures, and personnel training methods developed during High Jump became templates for subsequent polar operations by both military and civilian organizations. Contemporary analysis of Operation High Jump faces the challenge of separating documented facts from decades of speculation and mythology. Declassified materials provide detailed information about logistics, equipment, and operational procedures, but certain aspects of the mission remain unexplained or inadequately documented. The gap between official explanations and the mission's apparent complexity continues to generate questions about what High Jump actually accomplished. Operation High Jump demonstrates how Antarctica became a Cold War classroom where superpowers tested their capabilities against the planet's most challenging environment. Whether the expedition discovered anything beyond ice and rock remains a matter of speculation, but its impact on subsequent Antarctic policy and American polar strategy suggests that something significant occurred during those 6 months in the White Silence. Part 6. Ancient Maps and Ice-Free Shores. 1513. In the workshops of the Ottoman Imperial Navy, cartographer Piri Reis completes a world map that would spark centuries of speculation. Drawn on gazelle-skin parchment, this portolan chart fragment shows Atlantic coastlines with remarkable accuracy for its time. Europe, Africa, South America, and what some claim is the northern coast of Antarctica, depicted as ice-free lands centuries before the continent's official discovery. The Piri Reis map emerges from the golden age of exploration, when Portuguese and Spanish navigators were pushing the boundaries of the known world. Piri Reis himself documented his sources. Portuguese charts captured from enemy vessels, a map used by Christopher Columbus, and information from a sailor who had accompanied Columbus on his voyages. The map represents a compilation of the best geographical knowledge available in the early 16th century. But here's where the story becomes intriguing. The southern portions of the map show coastline features that appear to match the subglacial topography of Antarctica, the shape of the continent as it would appear without its ice covering. This correspondence seems impossible, given that Antarctica remained unknown to European exploration until 1820, and its ice-free topography wasn't mapped until the development of radar and satellite technology in the 20th century. The mathematical precision of certain coastline details on the Piri Reis map continues to puzzle historians and geographers. The proportional relationships between South American and supposed Antarctic coastlines show understanding of spherical geometry that exceeds what most 16th century navigators possessed. The map's creator used projection techniques that wouldn't become standard in European cartography for another century. Professor Charles Hapgood's 1966 analysis of the map proposed that it showed ancient knowledge of Antarctica's ice-free condition, suggesting that advanced civilizations had mapped the continent before ice covered it millions of years ago. Hapgood's Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings argued that the Piri Reis map represented fragments of a lost cartographic tradition that preserved geographical knowledge from prehistoric times. However, scholarly examination reveals significant problems with the ancient Antarctica theory. Gregory C. McIntosh's detailed 1994 study, The Piri Reis Map of 1513, provides comprehensive analysis that challenges many assumptions about the map's Antarctic connection. McIntosh's work demonstrates that the southern coastline most likely represents the South American coast, distorted through the compilation of multiple source maps with different scales and projections. The southern continent concept itself wasn't unusual in Renaissance geography. European cartographers regularly included Terra Australis Incognita, an unknown southern land, on their maps as a theoretical balancing mass for the known northern continents. This cartographic convention reflected classical geographical theories rather than actual exploration or ancient knowledge. Modern comparison between the Piri Reis map's southern features and actual Antarctic topography shows significant discrepancies that undermine the ice-free coastline theory. Satellite radar mapping of bedrock Antarctica reveals continental shapes and coastal features that don't correspond to the map's southern elements. The supposed matches result from selective interpretation rather than genuine cartographic accuracy. The map's rediscovery in 1929 at Topkapi Palace generated excitement precisely because it appeared to show impossible knowledge. Found during inventory of the palace's archives, the fragment immediately attracted attention from historians, fascinated by its apparent accuracy and mysterious southern coastlines. Media coverage emphasized the map's unexplained features, establishing a mythology that subsequent scholarship has struggled to correct. Technical analysis of the map's construction reveals methods consistent with 16th century Ottoman cartography. The materials, drawing techniques, color applications, and lettering styles match other contemporary Turkish naval charts. Nothing in the map's physical construction suggests access to information sources beyond what skilled Ottoman cartographers could obtain from captured Portuguese and Spanish materials. The compilation process that created the Piri Reis map explains many of its unusual features, combining charts drawn at different scales, using different projection methods, and covering overlapping geographical areas, inevitably produces distortions and apparent anomalies. What appears to be impossible accuracy in some areas results from successful integration of high-quality source materials, while other sections show the confusion that results from conflicting information. Piri Reis himself provided detailed notes about his sources and methods, describing how he combined 20 different charts and maps to create his synthesis. These notes indicate awareness of the challenges involved in reconciling different geographical traditions and projection systems. His approach was scholarly and methodical, not mystical or supernatural. The continuing appeal of the ancient Antarctica theory reflects broader human fascination with lost knowledge and hidden wisdom. The idea that ancient civilizations possessed advanced geographical knowledge suggests connections to larger questions about human development, lost technologies, and suppressed historical truths. These narratives become especially compelling when applied to places like Antarctica that remain mysterious and largely inaccessible. Recent technological developments in Antarctic research provide tools for testing historical claims about the continent's geography. Ground-penetrating radar, satellite altimetry, and ice core analysis have revealed detailed information about Antarctica's bedrock topography, ice formation history, and climatic conditions over millions of years. This data allows precise comparison between historical maps and actual geographical features. The scientific evidence shows that Antarctica has been ice-covered for approximately 34 million years, with periods of more extensive ice coverage during glacial epochs. The continent's current ice-free topography differs significantly from the coastlines shown on the Piri Reis map, confirming that the map's southern features represent something other than ancient Antarctic knowledge. Archaeological and geological evidence supports the conclusion that no advanced human civilization existed during periods when Antarctica might have been ice-free. The timescales involved, millions of years, predate human technological development by vast margins. Claims about ancient mapping of ice-free Antarctica require not just advanced navigation and cartography, but also the existence of sophisticated civilizations that left no other archaeological evidence. The Piri Reis map represents a fascinating example of Renaissance cartographic skill and the international exchange of geographical knowledge during the age of exploration. Its apparent mysteries dissolve under careful scholarly analysis, but its genuine historical value as a compilation of early 16th century geographical knowledge remains significant. The map tells us more about how knowledge traveled and transformed in the Ottoman Empire than about ancient Antarctic civilizations. Perhaps the map's greatest lesson lies not in what it supposedly reveals about lost knowledge, but in how human imagination fills gaps in understanding. When we encounter something that seems impossible or unexplained, our minds naturally seek extraordinary explanations. The desire to find ancient wisdom or hidden knowledge speaks to fundamental human needs for meaning and connection to something greater than our immediate experience. The continuing debate over the Piri Reis map demonstrates how mystery and scholarship can coexist productively. While careful analysis has largely resolved questions about the map's Antarctic connections, the process of investigation has advanced our understanding of historical cartography, Ottoman naval knowledge, and the transmission of geographical information across cultures and centuries. Part 7. Mountains beneath the ice. Imagine mountains that have never seen sunlight. Peaks that rise over 3,000 meters into permanent darkness, their jagged summits buried beneath 600 meters of ice. Welcome to the Gambotsev, subglacial mountains, Antarctica's ghost range that spans 1,200 kilometers across the heart of the East Antarctic ice sheet. The year 1957 marked the International Geophysical Year, when 12 nations coordinated the largest scientific collaboration in history. Soviet scientists working at remote inland stations began conducting seismic surveys that would revolutionize our understanding of what lies beneath Antarctic ice. Their instruments detected something impossible: a mountain range larger than the European Alps, completely hidden beneath the ice sheet. Dr. Grigory Gamburtsev led the Soviet team that first identified these buried peaks using primitive seismic equipment that required setting off explosions and measuring how sound waves bounced off buried rock formations. Working in temperatures that froze breath before it could condense, his team discovered that East Antarctica wasn't a smooth plateau, but a complex landscape of mountains, valleys and ridges existing in perpetual darkness. The discovery challenged everything scientists thought they understood about ice sheet formation. Mountain ranges should collect snow and ice, growing glaciers that eventually smooth and erode the underlying peaks. The Gamburtsev Mountains showed the opposite: incredibly sharp, jagged terrain preserved beneath ice as if frozen in time. Something about the Antarctic environment had prevented normal erosional processes from wearing down these peaks. 50 years after their discovery, the Gamburtsev Mountains remained largely theoretical. Scientists could detect their presence, but couldn't map their structure or understand their formation. The ice above them was too thick for conventional surveying, the terrain too remote for detailed ground-based research, and the weather too harsh for sustained aerial operations. In 2007, an international consortium launched the Antarctica's Gamburtsev Province Project, AGAP, using aircraft equipped with ice-penetrating radar, gravity sensors, magnetic field detectors, and seismographic equipment, flying grid patterns over an area larger than New York State. Research teams began creating three-dimensional maps of mountains that had remained hidden since the beginning of human civilization. The radar images revealed terrain that defied expectations. Instead of smooth, eroded peaks that millions of years of ice coverage should have created, the Gamburtsev Mountains showed alpine sharp ridges, deep valleys, and complex geological structures that appeared almost untouched by time. The mountain range looked as if it had been flash frozen at the moment of its formation. Geological analysis suggests the Gamburtsev Mountains represent one of Earth's oldest mountain-building events, with rock formations dating back over 1 billion years. But the range also shows evidence of much more recent geological activity, with uplift and faulting that occurred between 250 and 100 million years ago. This combination of ancient foundation and relatively recent activity created the complex terrain that lies buried today. The preservation of such sharp topography beneath continental ice presents a geological paradox. Under normal conditions, ice acts as a powerful erosional force, grinding down mountain peaks and filling valleys with glacial debris. The Gamburtsev Mountains suggest that Antarctic ice behaves differently than glaciers elsewhere on Earth, possibly because of the extreme cold that keeps the ice frozen to the underlying bedrock. Temperature measurements from the deepest ice drilling projects confirm that the base of the East Antarctic ice sheet remains well below freezing, creating conditions where ice adheres to rock rather than sliding and grinding as it does in warmer climates. This frozen base condition essentially mummifies the underlying landscape, preserving geological features that would be destroyed by more dynamic ice systems. The discovery of the Gamburtsev Mountains also solved another Antarctic mystery: why the East Antarctic ice sheet formed where it did. Climate models had struggled to explain how such a massive ice accumulation could begin on what appeared to be relatively flat terrain. The hidden mountains provided the elevated terrain necessary for ice sheet nucleation during global cooling events 34 million years ago. Advanced radar surveys revealed that the Gamburtsev Mountains aren't simply buried static peaks. They influence ice flow patterns across vast areas of East Antarctica. The mountains channel ice movement, create areas of faster and slower ice flow, and affect how the ice sheet responds to climate changes. These buried peaks continue to shape the surface of Antarctica even though they remain invisible. The mountain range includes features that exceed anything found in visible mountain systems. Some valleys beneath the ice are deeper than the Grand Canyon, while certain peaks rise higher above their surrounding terrain than Mount Everest rises above sea level. All of this dramatic topography exists in a world of permanent darkness, where no life has ever experienced seasonal change or seen the movement of the sun across the sky. Recent seismic studies suggest the Gamburtsev Mountains may still be geologically active, with earthquake activity that indicates ongoing tectonic processes beneath the ice. These findings challenge assumptions about Antarctica as a geologically dead continent, suggesting instead that significant Earth system processes continue even under the most extreme conditions. The Gamburtsev discovery has implications beyond Antarctica. Other ice-covered regions on Earth and potentially on other planets might preserve ancient landscapes beneath their frozen surfaces. Mars's polar ice caps, Jupiter's moon Europa, and Saturn's moon Enceladus might harbor buried terrain that could provide insights into geological processes that occurred billions of years ago. Sampling the Gamburtsev Mountains directly would require drilling through several kilometers of ice to reach bedrock, a technical challenge that currently exceeds human capabilities. Future missions might use robotic drilling systems or wait for climate changes that expose portions of the range. But for now, these mountains remain accessible only through remote sensing technologies. Above the Gamburtsev Mountains sits Dome A, one of the highest and coldest locations on Earth's surface. This ice dome marks the spot where Antarctic ice reaches its maximum thickness, creating conditions so extreme that the air itself becomes different, thinner, drier, and so clear that it provides ideal conditions for astronomical observations. Some of Earth's most sensitive telescopes operate above these buried peaks. The existence of the Gamburtsev Mountains reminds us that our planet continues to harbor secrets on a continental scale. Entire mountain ranges can exist in darkness, geological processes can continue beneath miles of ice, and landscapes preserved from ancient Earth can wait in frozen suspension for human discovery. In a world where satellites map every surface feature, Antarctica keeps its largest secrets buried beneath ice older than human memory. Part 8. The Sealed Lakes. 4 kilometers beneath your feet, in darkness that has lasted for millions of years, lies a lake larger than Lake Ontario. Lake Vostok, named after the Russian research station that discovered it, represents just one of over 400 subglacial lakes hidden beneath Antarctic ice, an entire aquatic world that exists in conditions no surface life has ever experienced. Picture the moment of discovery, January 1996. Russian glaciologist Igor Zotikov analyzes ice-penetrating radar data from the East Antarctic ice sheet and realizes that the smooth, horizontal reflections he's seeing don't indicate solid bedrock, they indicate liquid water. Beneath Vostok Station, where surface temperatures reach -89 degrees Celsius, instruments detect a body of water 250 kilometers long and 50 kilometers wide. The physics of Lake Vostok's existence challenges our understanding of how water behaves under extreme conditions. The lake remains liquid, despite being covered by nearly 4 kilometers of ice because of geothermal heating from Earth's interior and the insulating effect of the ice sheet above. Pressure from the overlying ice lowers the freezing point of water, creating conditions where liquid can exist at temperatures that would freeze surface water instantly. This isn't stagnant water waiting in darkness. Lake Vostok shows evidence of active circulation patterns driven by temperature differences and the lake's unusual shape. The northern end of the lake, where ice thickness reaches 4,200 meters, experiences different pressure and temperature conditions than the southern end at 3,750 meters depth. These differences create currents that have been circulating for potentially millions of years. Russian drilling teams spent decades trying to reach Lake Vostok without contaminating its pristine waters. The drilling process itself became a technological marvel, maintaining a borehole through nearly 4 kilometers of shifting ice while preventing contamination from surface materials or drilling fluids. In February 2012, after 22 years of drilling, Russian scientists finally breached the ice barrier and made contact with Lake Vostok's waters. The first samples from Lake Vostok revealed something extraordinary: evidence of microbial life existing in conditions previously thought to be sterile. DNA sequences extracted from ice samples showed genetic material from bacteria and other microorganisms, unlike anything found in surface environments. However, contamination concerns have made it difficult to confirm whether this genetic material represents indigenous lake life or contamination from drilling operations. Lake Vostok represents just the largest and most studied of Antarctica's subglacial lake system. Satellite altimetry and radio echo sounding have identified over 400 similar lakes scattered beneath the ice sheet. Some connect through subglacial river systems that transport water across hundreds of kilometers, creating a hidden hydrological network that rivals surface river systems. Recent discoveries show that this subglacial water system is far more dynamic than initially believed. Lakes fill and drain cyclically, with some experiencing volume changes equivalent to emptying and refilling multiple times per decade. These drainage events affect ice flow patterns thousands of kilometers away, demonstrating how deeply buried water systems influence the behavior of the entire ice sheet. The Whillans ice stream subglacial environment provides another window into this hidden aquatic world. In 2013, researchers successfully sampled water and sediments from a subglacial lake beneath the ice stream, confirming the presence of active microbial ecosystems adapted to permanently dark, cold conditions. The microbes discovered use chemosynthesis to derive energy from dissolved minerals rather than photosynthesis from sunlight. These subglacial ecosystems have been isolated from surface environments for potentially 15 million years, creating evolutionary laboratories where life has adapted to conditions that don't exist anywhere else on Earth. The microorganisms show metabolic pathways that could provide insights into how life might exist on other planets or moons with subsurface oceans. Lake Ellsworth, located in West Antarctica, represents another target for subglacial lake exploration. This lake, buried beneath 3 kilometers of ice, shows evidence of active water circulation and sediment deposition that suggests a complex aquatic environment. Plans for sampling Lake Ellsworth have focused on developing sterile access techniques that could serve as models for exploring similar environments on other worlds. The geological setting of many subglacial lakes provides clues about their formation and persistence. Lake Vostok sits in a rift valley created by tectonic activity that stretched and thinned the Earth's crust, creating a natural basin that collected water over geological timescales. The lake's sediments potentially preserve climate records spanning millions of years, creating an archive of Antarctic environmental history. Geothermal heating plays a crucial role in maintaining these subglacial aquatic systems. Heat flow from Earth's interior varies across Antarctica, with some regions showing elevated temperatures that can maintain liquid water even under thick ice coverage. Areas of higher geothermal activity often coincide with subglacial lake locations, suggesting that internal Earth processes help sustain these hidden aquatic environments. The discovery of extensive subglacial lake systems has revolutionized understanding of ice sheet dynamics. Water at the base of ice sheets acts as a lubricant that affects ice flow rates, ice stream behavior, and overall ice sheet stability. Changes in subglacial water systems could significantly influence how Antarctica responds to climate change, potentially affecting global sea level rise. Subglacial lakes also provide natural laboratories for studying extremophile organisms, life forms adapted to extreme conditions of temperature, pressure, and chemical composition. These organisms use metabolic processes that might be similar to life forms that could exist in the subsurface oceans of Europa, Enceladus, or other icy moons in our solar system. The isolation of subglacial lake environments makes them particularly valuable for studying evolutionary processes. Cut off from surface ecosystems for millions of years, lake organisms have evolved independently, potentially developing unique biological solutions to survival challenges. This isolation creates natural experiments in evolution that provide insights into life's adaptability. Advanced clean access technologies developed for subglacial lake exploration have applications beyond Antarctic research. The sterile drilling and sampling techniques required to study these environments without contamination are being adapted for astrobiology missions, medical applications, and other situations requiring ultra-clean environmental access. The existence of hundreds of subglacial lakes beneath Antarctic ice demonstrates that our planet harbors extensive aquatic ecosystems in places where liquid water shouldn't be able to exist. These hidden lakes, preserved in darkness for millions of years, continue to support active biological and geological processes that influence everything from local ice dynamics to global climate systems. Part 9. Blood Falls, the glacier that bleeds. In 1911, geologist Thomas Griffith Taylor discovered something that challenged everything scientists thought they understood about Antarctic ice. Flowing from the terminus of Taylor Glacier in the McMurdo Dry Valleys, a cascade of blood-red water poured onto the pristine white ice, staining it the color of fresh blood. For over a century, Blood Falls has remained one of Antarctica's most visually dramatic and scientifically significant mysteries. The initial explanation seemed straightforward. Red algae growing in the meltwater created the distinctive coloration. This theory satisfied researchers for decades, providing a biological explanation for the phenomenon that fit with contemporary understanding of Antarctic ecosystems. But as analytical chemistry advanced and researchers could examine the water's composition more precisely, the algae theory began to unravel. Chemical analysis revealed the true source of Bloodfall's distinctive color: iron. The water flowing from Taylor Glacier contains extremely high concentrations of ferrous iron that oxidizes when exposed to oxygen, creating the rust-red coloration that gives the falls their dramatic appearance. But this discovery raised more questions than it answered. Where was all this iron coming from? And how was liquid water flowing from a glacier in one of the driest, coldest places on Earth? The breakthrough came in 2017 when researchers from the University of Alaska and Colorado College used radio echo sounding to peer inside Taylor Glacier. Their instruments detected something extraordinary: an extensive network of liquid brine channels running through the glacier like veins through a body. These channels transport hypersaline water through solid ice, maintaining liquid flow even at temperatures well below the normal freezing point of water. The brine system inside Taylor Glacier contains salt concentrations 3 times higher than ocean water, creating a solution that remains liquid at temperatures that would freeze normal water solid. This hypersaline environment has been isolated inside the glacier for an estimated 1.5 million years, creating one of Earth's oldest continuously existing ecosystems. But Bloodfalls represents more than just unusual chemistry. It harbors life forms that challenge our understanding of biology itself. Microbiological analysis of the brine reveals thriving communities of bacteria and archaea that have survived in complete darkness, without access to sunlight or atmospheric oxygen, for over 1 million years. These organisms have developed metabolic pathways that use iron and sulfur compounds as energy sources, instead of the carbon-based processes that power most surface life. The microbial communities in Bloodfall's brine system represent evolutionary adaptation to extreme conditions. Cut off from surface environments, these organisms have developed unique biological strategies for survival in hypersaline, iron-rich, permanently dark conditions. They metabolize sulfate and iron compounds through chemosynthesis, creating energy from chemical reactions rather than from sunlight or organic matter. Genetic analysis of Bloodfall's microbes shows that they're related to organisms found in other extreme environments around the world. But they've evolved distinctive characteristics during their million-year isolation inside Taylor Glacier. Some species show metabolic capabilities that don't exist in any other known organisms, suggesting that extreme isolation can drive biological innovation in unexpected directions. The brine network inside Taylor Glacier extends far beyond the visible outflow at Bloodfall's airborne electromagnetic mapping conducted in 2017 revealed that the hypersaline water system covers an area larger than expected, with connected channels that transport dissolved minerals and nutrients throughout the glacier's interior. This discovery suggests that Taylor Glacier harbors a much more extensive aquatic ecosystem than previously imagined. The preservation of liquid water inside Taylor Glacier for over 1 million years demonstrates how ice can act as a protective environment rather than a destructive force. Instead of grinding and crushing biological material, the glacier's interior provides stable conditions where microbial communities can persist across geological timescales. The ice acts as insulation, maintaining relatively constant temperatures and protecting organisms from environmental changes that occur at the surface. Research at Bloodfalls has implications that extend far beyond Antarctic biology. The conditions inside Taylor Glacier, permanent darkness, extreme cold, hypersaline chemistry, and isolation from atmospheric processes, closely match conditions that might exist in the subsurface oceans of Mars, Europa, Enceladus, and other worlds in our solar system. Understanding how life survives and thrives in Bloodfall's environment provides insights into the potential for life in similar environments elsewhere. The iron chemistry of Bloodfalls also provides clues about early Earth environments. Before photosynthesis filled Earth's atmosphere with oxygen, many environments were iron-rich and oxygen-poor, similar to the conditions inside Taylor Glacier. The metabolic strategies used by Bloodfall's microbes might resemble the biological processes that powered early life on Earth, preserved in this Antarctic time capsule. Bloodfalls is now protected as part of Antarctic's Specially Protected Area 155, recognizing its unique scientific value and the need to prevent contamination from human activities. The protection measures ensure that future research can continue without introducing surface organisms that might alter the glacier's internal ecosystem or disrupt the chemical processes that maintain the brine system. The visual impact of bloodfalls continues to capture public imagination, but its scientific significance extends far beyond its dramatic appearance. The site represents a natural laboratory where researchers can study extremophile biology, astrobiology applications, geochemical processes, and ecosystem evolution under conditions that don't exist anywhere else on accessible Earth. Recent studies have focused on understanding how the brine system responds to climate change and glacier dynamics. As Taylor Glacier moves and changes shape, the internal brine channels adapt and evolve, demonstrating that this ecosystem is dynamic rather than static. The microbial communities and chemical processes continue to evolve even under apparently stable conditions. The discovery and ongoing research at bloodfalls demonstrate how scientific understanding advances through careful observation and technological innovation. What initially appeared to be a simple biological phenomenon, red algae in meltwater, revealed itself to be a complex system involving geochemistry, microbiology, glaciology, and astrobiology. The site continues to yield new discoveries as analytical techniques become more sophisticated. Bloodfalls reminds us that life finds ways to exist in the most unlikely places. A glacier bleeding iron-red water in one of Earth's most forbidding environments harbors thriving microbial communities that have survived conditions that would kill most surface organisms. In the McMurdo Dry Valleys, where the landscape resembles Mars more than Earth, this crimson cascade proves that life's creativity exceeds our imagination. Part 10. Hidden Warmth. Volcanic Ice Caves. Mount Erebus rises from Ross Island like a beacon of fire in a world of ice, its volcanic peak reaching 3,794 meters into Antarctic sky. But the real story lies not in what you can see above ground, but in the hidden world that exists beneath. A network of ice caves carved by volcanic heat, where steam and warmth create environments that shouldn't be able to exist in Antarctica. Active volcanism in Antarctica seems like a contradiction. How can fire and ice coexist in the same landscape? Mount Erebus provides the answer through its unique geological setting. As one of the world's few permanently active volcanoes, Erebus maintains a lava lake in its summit crater that has been continuously active for over a century. The volcano's geothermal activity creates temperature gradients that melt ice from below, forming cave systems that exist in perpetual conflict between volcanic heat and Antarctic cold. The ice caves of Mount Erebus form through a process unlike any other cave system on Earth. Volcanic gases and steam rise through fissures in the volcanic rock, encountering the ice and snow accumulated on the mountain's slopes. Where hot gases meet ice, melting occurs from within, creating hollow spaces that can extend for hundreds of meters through otherwise solid ice formations. These aren't static caves that form once and remain unchanged. The volcanic activity that creates them also continuously modifies them. Gas emissions vary with volcanic activity, changing the size and shape of cave passages. Ice accumulation and melting respond to both volcanic heat output and seasonal temperature changes, creating cave systems that evolve constantly in response to competing thermal forces. In 2017, researchers from New Mexico State University conducted the first comprehensive biological survey of Erebus's ice caves using DNA analysis of air samples and cave sediments. What they discovered challenged assumptions about life in extreme environments. The caves contain genetic material from a diverse array of organisms, including DNA sequences that didn't match any known species in genetic databases. The unknown DNA sequences suggested the presence of organisms that have evolved in isolation within the cave systems, adapting to the unique conditions created by volcanic heating of ice. The caves maintain temperatures that can reach above freezing despite the Antarctic setting, creating microenvironments where biological processes impossible elsewhere in Antarctica might occur. The cave environments show remarkable diversity in temperature and humidity conditions. Some passages remain close to freezing, with ice formations that create cathedral-like spaces, decorated with formations that combine volcanic minerals with ice crystals. Other areas reach temperatures warm enough for liquid water to exist, creating steamy chambers where condensation drips from ice walls heated by volcanic gases. Gas composition within the caves creates additional challenges and opportunities for life. Volcanic emissions include carbon dioxide, sulfur compounds, and trace gases that create chemical environments unlike those found in surface Antarctic ecosystems. Some organisms might use these volcanic gases as energy sources through chemosynthetic processes, similar to life forms found around deep-sea volcanic vents. The isolation of cave ecosystems from surface conditions creates evolutionary laboratories where organisms can develop independently from Antarctic surface life. The caves provide refuge from the extreme cold, desiccation, and seasonal darkness that characterize surface Antarctic environments, while presenting their own challenges related to gas composition, temperature fluctuations, and limited nutrient availability. Research access to Erebus ice caves requires overcoming significant logistical and safety challenges. The caves exist on an active volcano where gas emissions, sudden temperature changes, and volcanic activity create dangerous conditions for human exploration. Remote sensing technologies and robotic sampling systems provide safer alternatives for studying cave environments without exposing researchers to volcanic hazards. The discovery of potential endemic species in Erebus caves has implications for understanding how life colonizes and adapts to extreme environments. If confirmed, these organisms would represent evolution in action, showing how life responds to environmental conditions that don't exist anywhere else on Earth. The caves could harbor biological innovations that provide insights into adaptation strategies relevant to astrobiology. Similar geothermal cave systems exist at other Antarctic volcanic sites, but Mount Erebus provides the most accessible and extensively studied example. Deception Island in the South Shetlands harbors geothermally heated environments, and Mount Melbourne in northern Victoria Land shows evidence of ice-steam interactions that might create similar cave systems. The ephemeral nature of volcanic ice caves adds urgency to research efforts. Changes in volcanic activity can create or destroy cave systems rapidly, potentially eliminating unique ecosystems before they can be fully studied. Climate change effects on ice accumulation could also alter the balance between volcanic heating and ice formation that maintains these environments. Protection of Mount Erebus and its cave systems occurs through Antarctic Specially Protected Area designation, but the dynamic nature of volcanic environments makes conservation challenging. Traditional protected area management focuses on preventing human disturbance, but volcanic ice caves face natural disturbances from volcanic activity that can't be controlled through management policies. The caves represent natural laboratories for studying how volcanic activity and ice interact under extreme conditions. Understanding these processes has applications for studying similar environments that might exist on other planets, particularly Mars, where volcanic activity and ice deposits coexist in some regions. The caves might provide analogues for subsurface environments on Mars or the icy moons of the outer solar system. DNA sampling techniques developed for studying Erebus caves are being adapted for astrobiology applications where direct sampling isn't possible. The methods for extracting and analyzing genetic material from air samples, cave sediments, and ice formations could be applicable to robotic missions exploring caves on other worlds. The volcanic ice caves of Mount Erebus demonstrate that even in Antarctica, life finds niches where it can survive and potentially thrive. The combination of volcanic heat and ice creates environments that bridge the gap between Antarctic surface conditions and more moderate climates, providing stepping stones for biological adaptation to extreme conditions. These hidden chambers carved by fire in the heart of ice remind us that our planet continues to create new environments through geological processes, where heat meets cold, where volcanic gases meet pristine ice. Unique ecosystems emerge that challenge our understanding of life's limits and expand our appreciation for the creativity of natural systems. Part 11. Stones from the Stars. Every year, the universe delivers mail to Antarctica. Not letters or packages, but fragments of distant worlds. Meteorites that have traveled millions of miles through space to land on Earth's most pristine collecting ground. Antarctica has become humanity's treasure chest for extraterrestrial materials, harboring over 60% of all known meteorites despite covering just 10% of Earth's land surface. The numbers are staggering. Since 1976, the Antarctic Search for Meteorites program, ANSMET, has collected over 23,000 specimens from the ice. Each dark rock found against the white Antarctic ice represents a piece of the early solar system, carrying information about planetary formation, asteroid composition, and the cosmic processes that created our celestial neighborhood. Antarctica's unique environment creates the perfect meteorite hunting ground through a combination of geological and climatic factors. The continent's ice acts like a conveyor belt system, collecting meteorites that fall across vast areas and concentrating them in specific locations where wind patterns and ice flow dynamics create accumulation zones. These blue ice areas, where fierce katabatic winds strip away fresh snow, expose meteorites that might have fallen thousands of years ago. The preservation conditions in Antarctica are unmatched anywhere else on Earth. The cold, dry environment prevents oxidation and weathering that would destroy meteorites in more temperate climates. Specimens that would disintegrate within years in humid environments can remain pristine for hundreds of thousands of years on Antarctic ice, maintaining their original chemical and mineralogical composition. Field teams working for ANSMET face conditions that test human endurance while searching for cosmic treasures. Working in temperatures that can reach -40 degrees Fahrenheit, researchers travel by snowmobile across blue ice fields, searching for dark objects that stand out against the white surface. The search requires trained eyes and systematic grid patterns to ensure comprehensive coverage of promising collection areas. The classification process for Antarctic meteorites begins in the field, where researchers photograph each specimen in place, record GPS coordinates, and collect samples using sterile techniques to prevent contamination. Back at specialized laboratories, meteorites undergo detailed analysis using electron microscopy, mass spectrometry, and other techniques that reveal their origins and composition. Among the most significant discoveries are meteorites that originated from other planets. Lunar meteorites blasted from the Moon's surface by asteroid impacts have been found on Antarctic ice, providing samples of lunar material without the expense and complexity of sample return missions. These lunar specimens often contain information about parts of the Moon not sampled by Apollo missions. Martian meteorites represent even more extraordinary discoveries. ALH 84001, discovered in Allen Hills in 1984, sparked global controversy when NASA researchers announced in 1996 that it might contain evidence of ancient Martian life. The meteorite shows structures that some scientists interpret as fossilized bacteria, though alternative non-biological explanations continue to challenge the life hypothesis. The Martian origin of meteorites like ALH 84001 has been confirmed through comparison with atmospheric composition data from Mars missions. The meteorite's chemical signatures match the Martian atmosphere composition measured by Viking landers, providing definitive proof that these rocks traveled from Mars to Earth through space. Asteroid meteorites make up the majority of Antarctic finds, but they provide crucial information about solar system formation. These specimens preserve materials from the early solar nebula, containing minerals and chemical compounds that date back over 4.5 billion years to the solar system's birth. Some contain pre-solar grains, materials that formed around other stars before becoming incorporated into our solar system. The collection process follows strict protocols designed to maintain scientific integrity while maximizing research potential. Each meteorite receives a unique identification number, detailed photographic documentation, and careful preservation in sterile conditions. Samples are distributed to researchers worldwide for analysis, ensuring that these cosmic specimens benefit the broadest possible scientific community. Recent discoveries continue to expand our understanding of solar system diversity. Carbonaceous chondrites found in Antarctica contain organic compounds and water-bearing minerals that provide insights into the raw materials available during planetary formation. These meteorites might contain the building blocks that eventually led to life on Earth, preserved in frozen form for billions of years. The technical challenges of meteorite hunting in Antarctica require specialized equipment and procedures. Researchers use GPS navigation systems, satellite communication for safety, and custom collection tools designed to work in extreme cold. The logistical support includes helicopter transport, field camps, and coordination with Antarctic research stations for emergency backup. Climate change poses potential threats to Antarctic meteorite collection. As surface temperatures rise and ice melting accelerates, meteorites that have been preserved for millennia might sink into melting ice, or become buried by changing accumulation patterns. This urgency has led to intensified collection efforts in areas where climate effects are becoming apparent. Laboratory analysis of Antarctic meteorites has revolutionized planetary science understanding. Isotopic analysis techniques can determine the age of meteorites, their parent body origins, and the cosmic ray exposure times they experience during transit through space. These data provide a timeline of solar system processes that spans from formation to the present day. The classification system for Antarctic meteorites includes categories based on composition, structure, and origin. Ordinary chondrites represent the most common type, while rare specimens like iron meteorites, lunar samples, and Martian rocks receive intensive study due to their unique scientific value. Each category provides different insights into solar system processes and planetary evolution. Educational outreach programs use Antarctic meteorites to inspire public interest in space science and planetary exploration. Museums worldwide display Antarctic meteorite specimens, and educational materials help students understand how these cosmic visitors provide windows into processes occurring throughout the solar system. The international cooperation required for Antarctic meteorite research demonstrates how scientific collaboration can transcend political boundaries. Specimens collected by one nation's research program are shared with scientists worldwide, ensuring that these cosmic materials benefit all humanity's understanding of our place in the universe. Future meteorite hunting in Antarctica will likely incorporate advanced technologies, including drone surveys, improved detection systems, and automated collection procedures. As human access to Antarctica becomes more challenging due to environmental concerns, robotic systems might continue the search for cosmic messengers landing on Earth's most pristine laboratory. The continuing arrival of meteorites in Antarctica reminds us that Earth exists in a dynamic cosmic environment where materials constantly exchange between planets, asteroids, and other bodies. Each meteorite represents a journey through space and time, carrying information about distant worlds directly to human hands on the ice. Part 12. The Great Impact. Beneath the ice buried beneath. East Antarctic ice lies what might be one of the largest impact scars in Earth's history, a gravitational anomaly so massive that it suggests a collision that could have reshaped the planet. The Wilkes Land crater, if confirmed, would represent an impact event dwarfing the asteroid strike that killed the dinosaurs, hidden beneath kilometers of ice for millions of years. The discovery began not with dramatic fieldwork, but with subtle variations in satellite measurements. The Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment, GRACE, satellites detected gravitational anomalies in Wilkes Land, East Antarctica, indicating the presence of a dense mass concentration, or mascon, buried beneath the ice sheet. This gravitational signature suggested something extraordinary hidden in the continental interior. Dr. Ralph von Fries and colleagues at Ohio State University first proposed the impact hypothesis in 2006, analyzing GRACE gravity data that revealed a circular gravitational anomaly approximately 480 kilometers in diameter. The size and shape of this anomaly suggested the gravitational signature of a massive impact crater, larger than any confirmed impact structure on Earth. The proposed Wilkes Land impact would have occurred during the Permian-Triassic boundary, approximately 250 million years ago, coinciding with the most severe mass extinction event in Earth's history. The Permian-Triassic extinction eliminated over 90% of marine species and 70% of terrestrial vertebrates, earning it the nickname the Great Dying. The timing correlation between the proposed impact and this extinction event has led to speculation about cause and effect relationships. If confirmed, the Wilkes Land impact would represent a collision with an asteroid or comet estimated at 50 kilometers in diameter, 5 times larger than the object that created the Chicxulub crater associated with the dinosaur extinction. An impact of this magnitude would have released energy equivalent to billions of nuclear weapons, creating global environmental effects that could explain the severity of Permian-Triassic extinction patterns. The geological evidence for the Wilkes Land impact remains circumstantial, but intriguing. Magnetic field measurements from airborne surveys show circular patterns of magnetic anomalies that could indicate shocked rock formations created by impact processes. Seismic studies reveal subsurface structural patterns consistent with complex crater formation, but the ice cover prevents direct sampling of potentially shocked minerals that would provide definitive impact evidence. The preservation of such a large impact structure beneath Antarctic ice presents both opportunities and challenges for research. The ice sheet has protected the crater from erosion and modification that would obscure impact signatures in more temperate climates. However, the same ice cover prevents direct access to rock samples that could confirm impact origin through microscopic analysis of shock metamorphism features. Comparative analysis with confirmed impact structures shows similarities between the Wilkes Land gravitational signature and other large impact craters. The Sudbury Complex in Canada and the Vredefort Dome in South Africa show comparable gravitational and magnetic signatures, supporting the impact interpretation for the Antarctic anomaly. However, these confirmed craters allow direct sampling and petrographic analysis that isn't currently possible at Wilkes Land. Alternative explanations for the Wilkes Land gravitational anomaly include tectonic processes, volcanic activity, or unusual crustal structure unrelated to impact processes. Some researchers suggest that the circular gravitational pattern could result from ancient rifting processes, mantle plume activity, or the intersection of tectonic features that create mascon-like signatures without requiring impact origin. The debate over the Wilkes Land impact illustrates the challenges of studying Earth's impact history, particularly for ancient events where erosion, tectonism, and sedimentation have obscured direct evidence. Many large impact structures remain unconfirmed due to these preservation challenges, making the inventory of major impact events in Earth's history incomplete. Advanced modeling studies have attempted to reconstruct the environmental effects of a Wilkes land-scale impact during the Permian period. Computer simulations suggest that such an impact would have injected massive quantities of dust, debris, and vaporized rock into the atmosphere, creating global climate effects lasting for years to decades. The impact location, in what was then part of the supercontinent Gondwana, could have affected global atmospheric circulation patterns. The proposed connection between the Wilkes Land impact and Permian Triassic extinction has generated significant scientific interest, but remains controversial. Multiple factors likely contributed to the severity of this extinction event, including massive volcanic activity in Siberia, ocean acidification, and climate change. Determining whether impact processes played a primary or secondary role requires additional evidence that current technology cannot provide. Recent advances in satellite gravity measurements and magnetic field mapping continue to refine understanding of the Wilkes Land anomaly's structure and origin. Higher resolution data reveals internal structure within the circular anomaly that could provide clues about formation processes, but interpretation remains challenging without direct sampling of subsurface materials. The technical requirements for confirming the Wilkes Land impact would involve drilling through several kilometers of ice to reach bedrock, followed by extensive sampling and analysis to identify shock metamorphism features. Current drilling capabilities in Antarctica are limited to ice coring projects, making the rock sampling necessary for impact confirmation technically and logistically prohibitive. International collaboration would be essential for any comprehensive study of the Wilkes Land structure. The location lies within Australian Antarctic territory, but the scale and complexity of required research would necessitate cooperation between multiple nations with Antarctic research capabilities. The Antarctic Treaty System provides frameworks for such collaboration while ensuring environmental protection. The preservation potential of impact structures beneath ice sheets has implications for understanding Earth's bombardment history and identifying similar features in other ice-covered regions. If confirmed, the Wilkes Land crater would demonstrate that major geological features can remain hidden beneath ice for hundreds of millions of years, suggesting that other significant structures might await discovery beneath polar ice caps. Climate change effects on Antarctic ice could potentially expose portions of buried geological structures, including possible impact features. As ice sheets thin and retreat, previously buried bedrock becomes accessible for direct sampling and analysis. However, the timescales involved in exposing deep structures like Wilkes Land exceed current climate change projections. The astrobiology implications of confirming a major Permian impact include understanding how life on Earth has responded to catastrophic events and how similar impacts might affect life on other planets. The Permian Triassic extinction and recovery provide insights into ecosystem resilience and evolutionary innovation following global catastrophes. The continuing scientific debate over the Wilkes Land impact demonstrates how new technologies can reveal previously unknown aspects of Earth's history while highlighting the limitations of studying ancient geological processes. Whether the feature represents a major impact crater or alternative geological process, its existence illustrates the incomplete nature of our knowledge about Earth's most dramatic geological events. The possibility that one of Earth's largest impact craters lies hidden beneath Antarctic ice captures the imagination while exemplifying rigorous scientific methodology. Claims require extraordinary evidence, and the Wilkes-Land hypothesis remains unproven, despite intriguing gravitational and magnetic signatures that warrant continued investigation. Part 13. Listening through the ice. The Cosmic Telescope. Deep beneath the South Pole, in ice that has never seen sunlight, lies humanity's most ambitious attempt to eavesdrop on the universe. The IceCube Neutrino Observatory transforms 1 cubic kilometer of Antarctic ice into a cosmic telescope, detecting the most elusive particles in existence. Neutrinos that have traveled billions of years through space to reach Earth. Imagine particles so ghostly that trillions pass through your body every second without you noticing. Neutrinos interact so weakly with matter that they can traverse entire planets without being absorbed or deflected. Yet these same particles carry information about the most violent and energetic processes in the universe: supernovae, black holes, gamma-ray bursts, and cosmic ray acceleration that occurs in environments too extreme for traditional astronomy. The IceCube detector consists of 5,360 digital optical modules, sophisticated light sensors, buried between 1.5 and 2.5 kilometers deep in South Pole ice. These sensors wait in permanent darkness for the rare moments when a neutrino interacts with the ice, creating charged particles that emit Cherenkov radiation. The blue flash that occurs when particles travel faster than light can move through ice. Construction of IceCube required engineering solutions unlike any previous scientific instrument. Each detector module had to be lowered through holes melted in the ice using specialized hot water drills, then positioned precisely in strings that extend through the ice column. The installation occurred during Antarctic summers, when temperatures were merely brutal rather than impossible, with crews working in conditions that tested both equipment and human endurance. The South Pole location provides ideal conditions for neutrino detection through a combination of geographic and geological factors. The ice is extraordinarily clear and pure, with minimal contamination from dust, air bubbles, or other materials that could interfere with light detection. The location's stability, both geological and political, ensures continuous operation without the disruptions that might affect detectors in more accessible locations. The breakthrough moment came in 2013, when IceCube detected the first confirmed high-energy neutrinos of astrophysical origin. These events, with energies millions of times higher than neutrinos produced by nuclear reactors or the Sun, provided definitive evidence that cosmic accelerators somewhere in the universe were producing the most energetic particles ever detected. In 2017, IceCube achieved something unprecedented in astronomy, tracing a neutrino back to its source. When the detector registered a high-energy neutrino event, coordinated observations by other telescopes identified the likely source as Blazar TXS 0506 plus 056, a supermassive black hole surrounded by an accretion disk in a galaxy 4 billion light-years away. This multi-messenger astronomy breakthrough demonstrated that neutrinos could provide information about cosmic processes invisible to traditional telescopes. The detection of neutrinos from NGC 1068 in 2022 provided another landmark discovery. This nearby active galaxy, obscured by dust that blocks optical and X-ray observations, became visible through its neutrino emissions. IceCube detected multiple neutrinos from this source, creating the first neutrino image of an individual galaxy and demonstrating that neutrino astronomy could reveal cosmic objects hidden from other forms of observation. 2023 brought evidence of a Milky Way neutrino glow, diffuse neutrino emission from cosmic ray interactions within our own galaxy. This discovery created the first neutrino map of the Milky Way, showing that our galaxy continuously produces high-energy neutrinos through processes involving cosmic ray interactions with interstellar gas and dust. The operational challenges of maintaining IceCube in Antarctic conditions require continuous innovation and adaptation. Electronic systems must function reliably at temperatures that can reach -80 degrees Fahrenheit, while communication systems must maintain data transmission through harsh weather conditions that can isolate the South Pole for months at a time. Data analysis from IceCube involves processing enormous quantities of information from thousands of sensors operating continuously. Advanced algorithms distinguish genuine neutrino events from background noise caused by cosmic ray impacts, radioactive decay, and other sources. The analysis requires supercomputing resources and sophisticated statistical techniques to extract meaningful signals from vast datasets. The scientific impact of IceCube extends beyond neutrino astronomy to fundamental physics questions about particle interactions, cosmic ray acceleration, and the nature of dark matter. The detector's sensitivity to high-energy particles provides tests of physics theories under conditions that cannot be replicated in terrestrial laboratories. International collaboration makes IceCube operations possible, with over 300 scientists from 12 countries contributing to detector design, construction, operation, and data analysis. This collaboration demonstrates how extreme environments can inspire unprecedented scientific cooperation and technological innovation. Future expansions of IceCube through the IceCube Generation 2 project would increase the detector volume by nearly 10 times, enhancing sensitivity to neutrino sources and enabling detection of lower energy events. These expansions would cement Antarctica's role as humanity's premier location for neutrino astronomy and multi-messenger observations. The integration of IceCube observations with other astronomical instruments creates new capabilities for studying transient cosmic events. When gravitational wave detectors, gamma-ray telescopes, and neutrino observatories coordinate their observations, they can provide comprehensive pictures of cosmic catastrophes that would be invisible to any single type of detector. Antarctic environmental protection requirements ensure that IceCube operations maintain minimal impact on the pristine polar environment. The detector exists entirely within the ice, with surface installations designed to minimize visual and environmental impacts while providing essential support for underground operations. Educational outreach programs use IceCube discoveries to inspire interest in fundamental physics and astronomy. Real-time neutrino detection data becomes available to educators and students worldwide, providing opportunities to engage with cutting-edge scientific research while learning about particle physics and cosmic processes. The success of IceCube has inspired proposals for similar detectors in other locations, including under-ice installations in the Arctic and underwater detectors in deep ocean environments. These complementary instruments would expand neutrino astronomy capabilities while providing redundancy for confirming discoveries. The detector's ability to operate continuously through Antarctic winter demonstrates the value of extreme environments for scientific research. While most astronomical observations are limited by weather, atmospheric conditions, or daylight cycles, IceCube operates 24 hours per day throughout the year, accumulating data from the universe's most energetic processes. IceCube transforms the quiet Antarctic ice into humanity's ear to the cosmos, listening for whispers from the most violent processes in the universe. In the most silent place on Earth, this cosmic telescope proves that even in the deepest quiet, the universe speaks, softly, in neutrinos that carry messages across billions of years and light years to human listeners waiting in the ice. Part 14. Cracks in the Pact. The Antarctic Treaty System, once hailed as humanity's greatest conservation success, shows signs of strain as competing national interests collide with environmental protection and resource access questions. What began as a Cold War-era agreement to preserve Antarctica for peaceful scientific research now faces pressures that test whether international cooperation can survive economic and geopolitical challenges. Commercial fishing in the Southern Ocean surrounding Antarctica has expanded dramatically in recent decades, with krill harvesting reaching record levels. The Commission for the Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources reports that the 2023 to 2024 fishing season saw unprecedented catches, raising concerns about impacts on penguin colonies, whale populations, and the broader Antarctic food web that depends on krill as a foundation species. Krill aren't just tiny shrimp-like creatures, they represent the cornerstone of Antarctic marine ecosystems. Baleen whales consume millions of tons of krill annually during Antarctic feeding seasons. Penguin colonies depend on krill abundance for successful breeding. Seal populations, fish communities, and even seabird distributions correlate with krill availability. When commercial fishing removes significant krill biomass, the effects cascade through the entire Southern Ocean ecosystem. The fishing industry argues that current catch limits remain well below estimated krill stocks. But scientists point out that krill distribution isn't uniform. Fishing concentrates in areas accessible to fishing vessels, which often coincide with critical feeding areas for marine mammals and seabirds. Local depletion can occur even when overall population levels appear sustainable. Proposals for new marine protected areas in East Antarctica and the Weddell Sea have stalled repeatedly at Commission for the Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources meetings. These protected areas would restrict fishing and other extractive activities across millions of square kilometers, but consensus requirements mean that any single nation can block protection measures indefinitely. Russia and China have consistently opposed large-scale marine protection measures, arguing that existing data doesn't justify such extensive restrictions on fishing activities. Their position reflects broader tensions between resource access rights and conservation, priorities that challenge the consensus-based decision-making system that has governed Antarctic waters since 1980. The Antarctic Treaty's mining ban, established through the 1991 Madrid Protocol, faces growing pressure as global mineral demands increase, and climate change makes previously inaccessible areas more accessible. The protocol prohibits mineral resource activities for 50 years from 1998, but this moratorium can be modified through unanimous agreement among treaty parties. Climate change effects on Antarctic ice create new challenges for treaty implementation and environmental protection. The West Antarctic ice sheet shows accelerating mass loss, with glaciers like Thwaites, nicknamed the Doomsday Glacier, showing signs of potential irreversible retreat. Scientists warn that Thwaites' collapse could raise global sea levels by several meters over coming centuries. But treaty mechanisms weren't designed to address such rapid environmental changes. Ice shelf collapses, like the Larsen B disintegration in 2002, demonstrate how quickly Antarctic environments can change. These sudden changes expose previously ice-covered areas to human access, create new marine ecosystems that need protection, and alter the physical geography that underpins existing protected area boundaries. Tourism growth in Antarctica has exceeded all projections, with visitor numbers growing from fewer than 10,000 annually in the 1990s to over 74,000 in the 2022 to 2023 season. The International Association of Antarctica Tour Operators maintains industry standards, but rapid growth strains oversight capabilities and increases environmental impact risks. New tourism operators entering the Antarctic market don't always follow established environmental protocols or possess adequate experience for polar operations. Recent incidents, including ship groundings, environmental spills, and inadequate waste management, demonstrate the challenges of regulating tourism in remote locations where enforcement capabilities are limited. The consensus decision-making process that preserved Antarctic peace during the Cold War now impedes rapid responses to emerging environmental threats. Climate change effects, ecosystem changes, and new human pressures require adaptive management approaches that the current treaty system struggles to provide. Some nations have begun asserting resource interests more aggressively, testing the boundaries of treaty restrictions. Expanded research programs, enhanced infrastructure development, and increased territorial marking activities suggest preparation for potential changes to the current international management system. Scientific research coordination has become more complex as national programs expand and diversify. Competition for prime research sites, logistical conflicts between different national programs, and disputes over data sharing suggest that even scientific cooperation faces growing pressures. The Southern Ocean food web faces multiple simultaneous stresses from fishing pressure, climate change, ocean acidification, and pollution. Recent studies document declining krill populations in some regions, shifting species distributions as waters warm, and increasing plastic pollution even in remote Antarctic waters. Enforcement capabilities remain limited throughout the Antarctic Treaty area. The vast distances, harsh conditions, and minimal infrastructure make monitoring and enforcement challenging even for well-resourced nations. Illegal fishing, unreported activities, and treaty violations may occur without detection or response. New technologies including autonomous vessels, satellite monitoring, and remote sensing capabilities provide enhanced oversight possibilities. But implementing comprehensive monitoring systems requires international cooperation and significant financial investments that may exceed what treaty parties are willing to commit. The Antarctic Treaty System's greatest achievement, preventing military conflict over Antarctic resources, faces new tests as resource scarcity and climate change effects increase global competition for natural resources. The treaty's peaceful purposes requirement may face challenges if economic pressures exceed diplomatic restraints. Future treaty effectiveness depends on adaptation capabilities that balance conservation goals with legitimate human interests while maintaining the international cooperation that has preserved Antarctic peace for over 60 years. The coming decades will test whether humanity can maintain its commitment to Antarctic protection when economic and environmental pressures intensify. Recent scientific assessments emphasize the urgency of strengthening Antarctic protection measures before irreversible changes occur. Marine ecosystems, ice sheet stability, and global climate regulation functions all depend on maintaining Antarctic environmental integrity through enhanced international cooperation. The cracks appearing in Antarctic governance aren't necessarily fatal. Flaws, they might represent growing pains as humanity adapts international law to address 21st century environmental and resource challenges. The question isn't whether the Antarctic treaty system will face pressure, but whether it can evolve rapidly enough to meet emerging challenges while preserving its core conservation mission. As ice thins and debates thicken, the future of Antarctic protection depends on whether humanity can demonstrate the same far-sighted cooperation that created the treaty system, applying it to challenges that the original negotiators could never have imagined. Part 15. What the Ice Keeps. As our journey through Antarctica's mysteries draws to a close, we find ourselves standing at the edge of understanding, looking out over a continent that refuses to give up its secrets easily. What have we discovered in this exploration of the world's most enigmatic landmass? Not ancient alien bases or government cover-ups, but something far more profound. A reminder that mystery and wonder still exist in our thoroughly mapped, satellite-surveilled, digitally documented world. Antarctica is more a self-covering than a cover-up. Kilometers of ice naturally conceal mountains that dwarf the Alps, lakes larger than entire countries, and ecosystems that have evolved in isolation for millions of years. The continent doesn't hide these marvels through human conspiracy. It buries them beneath ice older than human civilization, creating a natural vault that preserves Earth's ancient secrets. The Gumburtsev Mountains sleep beneath the ice like fossilized dreams, their jagged peaks reaching toward a sky they'll never see. Subglacial Lake Vostok circulates in darkness, harboring microorganisms that have adapted to conditions that shouldn't support life. Blood Falls bleeds iron-rich brine that has flowed through Taylor Glacier for over 1 million years, supporting communities of bacteria that derive energy from chemistry rather than sunlight. These aren't conspiracy theories. They're confirmed scientific discoveries that demonstrate how much we still don't understand about our own planet. While internet forums debate fabricated mysteries, real scientists work in brutal conditions to uncover genuine marvels that exceed the imagination of any conspiracy theorist. The Antarctic Treaty System, far from facilitating cover-ups, makes unauthorized activities more difficult through its comprehensive monitoring and permitting requirements. Environmental impact assessments, international inspections, and mandatory activity reporting create transparency that exceeds what exists for most terrestrial environments. The bureaucracy that frustrates rapid exploration also prevents environmental destruction and military exploitation. Yet some alluring mysteries persist precisely because scientific evidence remains incomplete. The Piri Reis map's apparent accuracy continues to puzzle historians even after scholarly analysis has debunked ancient Antarctic cartography claims. The Wilkes Land gravitational anomaly suggests a massive buried impact crater, but ice coverage prevents the direct sampling needed for confirmation. These unresolved questions demonstrate how rigorous science separates wonder from wishful thinking. The most profound discoveries often come from patient observation rather than dramatic revelation. IceCube Neutrino Observatory transforms Antarctic ice into a cosmic telescope, detecting ghostly particles that carry messages from the universe's most violent processes. This achievement required decades of international cooperation, engineering innovation, and scientific dedication, the opposite of secretive government projects. Mount Erebus's volcanic ice caves harbor genetic material from unknown organisms, suggesting that life finds ways to survive in environments that seem absolutely hostile. These potential discoveries result from careful DNA analysis and systematic exploration, not from stumbling across hidden civilizations or suppressed evidence. The continent's role as Earth's meteorite collection ground brings cosmic visitors directly to human hands. Antarctic ice preserves fragments of Mars, the Moon, and asteroids that carry information about solar system. formation, and potentially about life beyond Earth. These specimens aren't hidden in government warehouses, they're distributed to researchers worldwide and displayed in museums for public education. Climate change adds urgency to Antarctic research as warming temperatures threaten to alter the continent's fundamental character. The West Antarctic ice sheet shows signs of irreversible retreat that could reshape coastlines globally. Krill populations face pressure from both fishing and changing ocean conditions, potentially destabilizing the food web that supports Antarctic wildlife. These environmental pressures create new challenges for the international cooperation that has preserved Antarctic peace for over 60 years. Marine protected area proposals stall in endless negotiations, while fishing pressure increases on Southern Ocean ecosystems. The consensus requirement that prevented military conflict now impedes rapid responses to environmental emergencies. Perhaps Antarctica's greatest secret is how thoroughly it reflects human nature. The mysteries we project onto the continent often reveal our desires more than its reality. We want to believe in hidden knowledge, suppressed discoveries, and secret civilizations because these narratives suggest that wonder and mystery still exist in our mundane world. The truth is more interesting than fiction. Antarctica doesn't need ancient aliens or government conspiracies to be mysterious. It harbors genuine marvels that exceed human imagination. Mountains buried in permanent darkness, lakes isolated for millions of years, and ecosystems adapted to conditions that don't exist anywhere else on accessible Earth provide real mysteries worth exploring. The continent teaches patience in an age of instant answers. Many Antarctic questions require decades of research, international cooperation, and technological development before they can be answered. In a world accustomed to immediate information, Antarctica reminds us that some knowledge must be earned through dedication, hardship, and time. For those seeking sleep and peace in these quiet hours, Antarctica offers the ultimate lullaby: the sound of wind across ice, the silence of snow falling in darkness, the patience of glaciers that move in slow motion across geological time. These are the sounds of a world that exists beyond human concerns, where natural processes continue regardless of our presence or understanding. The continent remains a mirror reflecting human aspirations and fears. Scientists see it as the ultimate laboratory. Environmentalists view it as pristine wilderness requiring protection. Nations consider it strategic territory with potential resources. Conspiracy theorists imagine it concealing forbidden knowledge. Each perspective captures part of Antarctica's reality while missing the whole. What Antarctica truly keeps are lessons about resilience, adaptation, and the limits of human knowledge. Life survives in conditions that seem impossible. International cooperation can overcome political differences when focused on shared goals. Natural processes operate on timescales that humble human ambitions. These insights matter more than any secret base or hidden civilization. As you drift towards sleep, imagine the silence of Antarctic night, not empty quiet, but the profound peace of a world where ice flows slowly toward distant seas, where neutrinos whisper stories of distant stars, where mountains wait in darkness for sunshine that may never come. In the most remote place on Earth, patience becomes a virtue, mystery becomes natural, and the unknown becomes an invitation rather than a threat. Some answers arrive slowly, like neutrinos crossing the universe to reach human detectors buried in ancient ice. The greatest secrets Antarctica keeps aren't hidden by governments or lost civilizations. They're preserved by time itself, waiting for the patience and wisdom to understand what they mean. In the white silence, questions multiply like snowflakes, each unique, each beautiful, each part of something larger than human understanding. Antarctica keeps its secrets not to torment us, but to teach us that mystery and wonder deserve preservation in a world too eager for easy answers.